The Earth plunged into drought. No rivers flowed anymore, only cracked riverbeds stretching across the planet. Lakes that were once sources of life turned into giant, empty pits. Without water, plants couldn't survive. Half the vegetation vanished, triggering a chain collapse of the ecosystem. And the heat began to tighten its grip on the planet like an invisible trap. Temperatures soared, the air grew thick and scorching. The sky turned murky, dust veiled everything from cities to countryside. Nowhere was habitable anymore. In this world, millions struggled with perpetual thirst, their bodies withered like the very land they stood on, and billions of other creatures silently disappeared, leaving nothing but gaps in the web of life. It had been a full year since the last rain, a seemingly normal phenomenon, yet it was the final pin holding the planet back from collapse. When the rain disappeared, life began its countdown. Today, we will follow the timeline, returning to the moment the rain stopped, and witness Earth's step-by-step slide into destruction. This is a hypothetical story, but sometimes fiction is just a warning for a very real future. On the first day, the weather forecast simply said, "No rain today." There were no warning signs, nothing to cause worrying. But in that very pace, the unthinkable had begun. Earth entered an endless, arid slumber. 7 days passed, and still no rain, but small changes started to appear. The ground grew drier, leaves faded, flowers wilted in silence. The air indoors gradually became stuffy, skin felt dry, lips cracked. Our only reaction was to apply more lotion, drink a little more water. Temperatures silently rose in already hot regions, but not enough to trigger a red alert on the weather news. The words "no rain" still scrolled across the screen daily, simple and quiet. But people still believed it was a familiar part of the dry season. No one panicked, no one was vigilant, and so the first week closed with another sunny day. A month went by without a single drop of rain. Still, no one was truly worried. Supermarket shelves remained full. People only whispered about the silently increasing prices of vegetables. But in the fields, farmers felt it most acutely. Newly sown seedlings couldn't grow, the soil cracked, lush green fields turned yellow in just a few weeks. Irrigation water was insufficient. People were forced to switch to watering at night to prevent rapid evaporation. Water levels in reservoirs dropped daily. Small streams began to dry up. At some hydroelectric plants, severe water shortages caused continuous power cuts. The global energy system began to feel the pressure. Some countries were forced to implement regulations restricting domestic water use. In Spain and Greece, residents were asked not to water plants or flush toilets during peak hours, something unheard of in the middle of the rainy season. Meanwhile, meteorologists began reviewing data. Comparing it with major past droughts, charts showed all indicators: humidity, rainfall, pressure plummeting at an alarming rate, yet no one dared issue an official warning. On television, the phrase "unusual climate phenomenon" appeared more frequently. People started to sense something was happening. Half a year without rain, now the world could no longer ignore it. In India, once a centre for sugarcane and wheat cultivation, there were no fields left. Millions left their villages, not for livelihoods, but simply to find water. In Chennai, reservoirs that once supplied millions dried up completely. The city relived its historic 2019 water crisis. From India, the US, to Europe, any place dependent on rainy seasons fell into crisis. Forests began to burn, initially small fires, then erupting into uncontrollable infernos. The Amazon, Earth's green lung, was shrouded in smoke, nearly half its area incinerated. Hundreds of new fire points were recorded daily. The global average temperature rose by 1.8 degrees Celsius, exceeding the warning thresholds of climate agreements. In Africa, drought reached the most severe levels in modern history. Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia, 3 nations already water scarce, faced an unprecedented catastrophe. Over 20 million people lacked sufficient clean water or food. Livestock herds, their last source of sustenance, collapsed on the cracked earth. Humans began digging deep into the ground for water. Coastal desalination plants operated at full capacity but still weren't enough. The entire world pinned its hopes on one thing: the rain would return. 1 year without rain, people began to understand that the apocalypse wouldn't arrive with a bang, but with a prolonged silence. The Nile River, the cradle of human civilization, ran dry. People had to queue under the scorching sun to receive water distributed from military tankers. On the other side of the hemisphere, the Mississippi River, America's vital transport artery, suffered the same fate. Water stopped flowing, the riverbed cracked, cargo ships lay stranded in dried mud. Nations once proud of their clean energy, like Norway and Switzerland, now faced crisis. Lacking water for hydropower, national power grids collapsed one by one. Hospitals, public transport, data centers were paralyzed, modern life had lost its anchor. And as water ceased to flow even in the most abundant places, the largest migration in human history began. Hundreds of millions left their homelands, the cracked earth, flocking north towards milder climates, where they believed water still existed. But there wasn't enough water to share, and human tolerance wasn't enough. Conflicts over water erupted, initially small scuffles at water distribution points, then weapons appeared. Small wars broke out everywhere, not over borders or religion, but over clean water. Something once taken for granted, the value of water surpassed gold. The most powerful people in the world were those who controlled water sources. But by now, no one called it an unusual climate phenomenon anymore because it was truly happening and unstoppable. The 5th year without rain, now, what vanished was not just water, but life itself. Cacti, the last plants able to withstand drought, had died off 2 years prior. With no plants left, photosynthesis stopped. And without photosynthesis, humans began to suffocate on their own planet. Carbon dioxide levels skyrocketed, the air became suffocating, hot, and toxic. The human respiratory system eroded daily. People were forced to wear air filtering masks even indoors. Daytime temperatures exceeded 50 degrees Celsius. The ground was searing, the sun relentless, cities fell silent. Life was reversed, night became day, and day became a nightmare. Millions of species, insects, birds, mammals disappeared without a trace. Ecosystems collapsed, desertification spread globally, blanketing once fertile regions from southern France to central Vietnam. All that remained was dust and burning sunlight. Only a few small communities survived, relying on technology to extract moisture from the air or closed-loop water recycling systems. But no matter the effort, water was never enough. The last climate research centers finally gave up. All modern technology was powerless against a harsh truth. Without water, there is no life. A decade without rain, Earth was no longer a place for life. The permanent ice caps at the poles, existing for millions of years, officially disintegrated. The last glaciers in Greenland drifted into the ocean. Antarctica, once Earth's climate archive, was now just a barren land of jagged rocks and seawater. The vast oceans remained, but intensely saline. Seawater now resembled a giant poisonous concoction where no creature could survive. Marine ecosystems collapsed completely. Great cities, once symbols of civilization, were now ruins buried in sand. The Eiffel Tower snapped under thermal stress. Tokyo was choked in dust. The last surviving communities dissolved, not from hunger, but from thirst, from depleted faith, from extinguished hope. 100 years without rain. No one remembered what rain was. The last generation had passed. Born in sand, raised in sand, they eventually returned to sand. Trees, rivers, animals, everything vanished. Life was as if it had never existed. Midday temperatures in former major cities like New Delhi or Cairo reached 90 degrees Celsius. At night, North America and Europe plunged into freezing temperatures, down to minus 50 degrees Celsius, the stark day-night contrast of a dying planet. In orbit, old satellites like Hubble still silently circled our Earth, transmitting regular signals, calling out into space, but no one answered. If, one day, an alien exploration vessel passed by, they might find the remnants of a once glorious civilization, and they would wonder what happened to this planet. Earth does not need humans to exist, but humans and all other life need Mother Nature. Cherish nature. Protecting the Earth is protecting ourselves. Because who knows, maybe tomorrow the rain will stop falling. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this content useful, Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more interesting analyses. Thank you for watching.